I'm writing this from a motel 2 states away, the door bolted and the curtains drawn even though it's only 9 in the morning. The last 48 hours have been the loudest silence of my life, and I need to get this out before my phone battery dies, and I decide to throw it into the dumpster behind the ice machine. If you read "R True Off My Chest" or "R to Our Relationships," you know the rhythm and OP spills their guts, Reddit weighs in with pitchforks or hugs, and by breakfast, the thread is locked. I've devoured those posts for years, never thinking I'd be the one typing with shaking thumbs. But here we are. I, 26, spent the past decade believing my small, boisterous family would walk over broken glass for me. We're Ukrainian-American, and our house is always full, cousins passing through, aunties making dumplings, my dad blasting 80s rock while fixing something that isn't broken. Mom calls our kitchen Central Command because every secret eventually echoes off its tiles. Apparently, not every secret. My best friend Mila, born 2 weeks after me, baptized in the same church, slept in my crib when her parents were fighting, knew those tiles as well as I do. We got matching journals at 9, matching cartilage piercings at 16, and matching surprise speeding tickets at 20. Senior year of college, she introduced me to Mark, her lab partner from anatomy. Tall, patient, nerd sharp, good with my anxiety spirals. He became my boyfriend the night he waited 4 hours outside my dorm because my phone was dead, and he wanted to walk me home. Mila hugged us both and shouted, "My two favorite people finally figured it out." I thought she meant it. Fast forward 3 years. Mark and I rent the garage apartment behind my parents' place while saving for a down payment. I work 12-hour nights as a surgical tech. Mark tutors at the community college and picks up shifts at a physical therapy clinic. Mila stops by constantly, claiming our Wi-Fi is faster for her grad school Zooms. Everyone thinks the setup is adorable. Childhood besties still inseparable. Boyfriend who feels like a son-in-law. Parents who feed whoever walks in. I didn't notice the shift at first. The glances they traded when I entered a room. The half-finished sentences that died the moment I clicked on the kettle. I blamed my exhaustion. Sleep is a rumor when you work nights. 4 months ago, I woke up at noon to the smell of my mom's cinnamon rolls and a note on the counter. At Doctor with Mila, back by 3. No reason to question it. Mom loves chauffeuring. I microwaved leftovers, then dozed on the couch until a random cramp yanked me fully awake. Scrolling Insta, I saw Mila's story. A blurry sonogram, captioned only with a white heart. My stomach gurgled louder than the microwave. She'd been dating a guy named Theo, an EMT who'd moved to Oregon last fall. They were long distance, arguing a lot, nowhere near baby-making territory. Sonograms aren't routine selfies. Before I could overthink, the front door clicked. Mom, Mila, and yes, Mark, walked in like defendants who'd rehearsed their plea. Mila's hoodie couldn't hide the bump now that I was looking for it. Mark's hand rested there, fingers splayed. Time hiccuped. I realized I'd never seen him touch another woman's stomach. I wished I still hadn't. Mom tried first. "Katia, sit. Let's talk calmly." That's when I understood every cop cliché about the suspect who just wants a lawyer. I went cold, surgical room calm. "Whose baby?" I asked, already knowing. Mila whispered, "Ours." Plural. She said they slipped at New Year's while I was working the holiday shift. They'd meant to tell me, but when the test came back positive, my parents convinced them to wait until second trimester, so the stress wouldn't endanger the pregnancy. Apparently, protecting the embryo from my reaction mattered more than protecting me from betrayal. I listened. I did not scream. Mark mumbled about fate. Mila sobbed about soulmates. Dad rambled about biblical forgiveness. Mom placed her hand on my shoulder like she was grounding a feral cat. They expected me to move from shock to acceptance in one kitchen sit-down. I went upstairs, packed 2 duffel bags, grabbed my nursing license and passport, and left. No promises, no tears. Mark followed to the driveway, begging me to talk. I noted absently that he hadn't worn the sneakers I gave him last month. I drove to a coworker's spare room and stared at the ceiling until dawn. The next morning, my phone lit with family group chat messages, verses about Mercy, ultrasound pics framed in sparkly gifs, invitations to the gender reveal BBQ, scheduled 3 weeks ahead. They didn't pause the celebration. They just removed me from the guest list. That's when the grief curdled into something sharper. The Ukrainian word for it translates roughly to righteous fury that cleans the bones. It feels metallic on the tongue. I tasted it and decided, they chose their seats. Let them watch the show. I'm not violent. I'm methodical. Surgeons taught me a cut is only messy if the plan is messy. So I made a plan. Step 1. Gather intel. Mila's grad program bills were paid partly by my dad's family scholarship fund, a pot my late grandmother set up for any descendant pursuing higher education. The trust is legally 25% mine, 25% my brother's, 50% controlled by my parents until we hit 30. Mom manages the paperwork, but I kept digital copies after Grandma died. While my old house was busy prepping pastel cupcakes, I downloaded every statement. Turns out Mom had forwarded next semester's $46,000 tuition payment for Mila, labeling it future daughter-in-law disbursement. Cute. The trust lawyer wouldn't think so. Step 2. Secure allies. My uncle Yuri is Dad's younger brother and perpetual black sheep. He owns a small accounting firm and hates hypocrisy more than vodka hangovers. I took a personal day, drove to his office, and laid out the betrayal alongside the creative bookkeeping. He whistled, then pulled up state statutes. Diverting trust assets to a non-beneficiary without unanimous written consent is fraud. Civil, not criminal, but still actionable. He offered to represent me pro bono. I signed retainer papers on the spot. Step 3. Protect my credit. Mark and I shared a joint savings account for the house down payment. Current balance $81,000. He'd contributed $35,000. The account required both signatures for withdrawal, but I had token access online. I moved our entire emergency fund, $9,000 I'd earned doing double shifts, into a new solo account. Joint account untouched for now. Leverage is leverage. I also froze my credit in case anyone got creative. Step 4. Wait, watch, document. Revenge isn't a microwave dinner, it's a slow cooker. Over the next 8 weeks, I went to work, hit the gym, and let them believe I was licking wounds in some therapist's office. Group chat screenshots piled up, baby registry links, photos of Mark painting a nursery in my parents' guest room, Dad bragging about how family sticks together. I saved everything in a folder titled Exhibits. Meanwhile, Uncle Yuri filed a petition to audit the trust and freeze distributions until the court determined damages. Mom got served at brunch. She texted me, "How could you?" I replied, "You taught me actions have consequences." Step 5. The pinprick. 2 weeks before the gender reveal, Mila's car insurance renewal hit. Policy was under my parents' multi-car discount plan, which required all drivers to maintain clean records. Remember those surprise speeding tickets at 20? Mine disappeared thanks to Dad's lawyer friend. Turns out expunged doesn't mean erased. Insurers can still view sealed infractions if they look. I emailed the underwriter anonymously with case numbers. Premiums tripled overnight, booting the policy out of affordability unless Mila went solo. which pregnant and student status spiked even higher. Dad called me screaming. I let it go to voicemail and backed up the audio. Step 6. The surgical cut. Mark's tutoring job paid peanuts, but his clinic shift mattered. Clinic policy forbids fraternization with patients. Mila had been a patient when she tore her ACL last year, and Mark did her intake, completely above board then. Decidedly not once she moved into my old bed. I forwarded time-stamped selfies of them, cuddling in that very clinic to HR, along with appointment logs proving overlap. Mark was suspended pending investigation. He texted that he needed me to clarify the timeline so he wouldn't lose his health insurance before the baby. I clarified nothing. Step 7. Public notice. My parents thrive on community image. They host church fundraisers, photograph every casserole for Facebook. I wrote an open letter, factual, unemotional, detailing the affair, the trust misappropriation, the expectation I smile through it. I posted it to our church's private group under my full name at 7 p.m. Saturday, primetime scroll hour. No insults, no caps lock, just receipts. Within 12 minutes, the post had 143 comments, half of them scripture about deceit. Mom drove to my coworker's apartment, banging on the door at midnight. We'd swapped cars that day. She wasted righteous indignation on an empty driveway. Phase 2 started the morning the court froze the trust. Mila's tuition evaporated. Her university dropped her for non-payment. She emailed professors begging for mercy. One screenshotted and sent it to me. Rumor mill works fast on campus. Dad tried moving money from his construction business, but discovered the IRS had flagged irregular payroll taxes. Uncle Yuri's anonymous tip. An audit is a slow bleed. Legal, relentless, sterile. I didn't need them destitute, just busy plugging holes so they couldn't harass me. Then I visited Mark. He'd moved into a budget motel after losing clinic income. His room smelled of takeout and unwashed sheets. He looked smaller, like guilt siphoned inches. I wore scrubs, hair in a neat bun, pulse a steady 60. He started to cry. I let him. When he sputtered, "I never wanted to hurt you," I slid a manila envelope across the table. Notarized dissolution of joint account. Asset division proposal. Relinquishment of any claim to my future earnings. Signing bought him his 35 grand back immediately. Refusing meant civil court on theft and emotional distress. He signed. I wire transferred while he watched, then said, "Name the baby whatever you want. Just don't name him after me." I walked out and blocked his number forever. My family still had one last ace. Guilt trips from relatives who only heard their tear-soaked version. I neutralized that with transparency, forwarding my uncle's legal summary and the screenshots. Every "how could you abandon your mother" message got a polite packet of evidence. The calls stopped. Turns out people don't like being used as flying monkeys when receipts are plentiful. Gender reveal day became a spectacle worth the popcorn I munched from my coworker's couch. They'd rented cannon poppers that explode powder. Mila live-streamed on Facebook. Within seconds, angry reactions clogged the feed. Comments asked whether the proud parents planned to repay the scholarship, whether Mark would propose before child support court, whether mom felt holy quoting Proverbs while abetting adultery. A top comment, "Blue for betrayal, pink for fraud," got screenshot to me. I laughed hard enough to scare the neighbor's cat. The fallout spread offline. Dad arrived at Sunday service expecting hugs and instead got the pastor suggesting a season of reflection and removing him from the building committee. Mom cried in the vestibule until old Mrs. Petrova handed her a tissue and whispered, "Actions, dear." Small towns don't need tabloids. Rumors commute by casserole. I built redundancy. I changed my legal address to a UPS mailbox, rerouted every piece of mail, and set up hardware key logins. They can't beg if they can't find you. I also sat with a therapist, not to forgive but to file down the edges of my anger so I wouldn't cut myself swinging it. He taught me a breathing trick. Exhale twice before inhaling. It kept the revenge surgical, not savage. I re-examined memories for cracks I'd painted over. Mila inhaling my hoodie. Mark insisting on couch sleep during my migraines. Mom dismissing my remark that Mark's new hoodies looked familiar. Nothing huge, just hairline fractures you don't see until the bone snaps. 3 days before Mila's due date, I received a cease and desist from a strip mall attorney claiming my posts caused distress. I forwarded it to Uncle Yuri, who replied with a 20-page rebuttal citing truth as defense and attaching the ultrasound timestamp. No one answered. The night Mila went into labor, Mom called the hospital demanding they bar me from the ward for safety. The charge nurse is my colleague. She texted, "Your mom's here spinning stories. Want security to escort her out?" I said no. Just log the call. Admins later added a note banning Mom from non-emergency visits for 6 months. The courtroom scene deserves its own paragraph because revenge movies never show the paper cuts. Picture a beige chamber smelling of copier toner, not grandeur. Mom wore pearl earrings like armor. Dad flipped through a dog-eared Bible he never opened at home. Mila waddled in on Mark's arm, cheeks flushed, the pregnancy waddle turning into an anxious sway when she realized absolutely no one had come to testify for them. Uncle Yuri and I sat at the plaintiff's table with 2 neat binders labeled facts and law. When the judge asked whether a settlement was possible, Dad tried to sermonize about family unity. The judge interrupted. "Sir, unity isn't a defense to misappropriation." Court clerks live for those moments. One actually snorted, echoing like a starter pistol. Facing a losing verdict, Mom signed the agreement with shaking hands. The pen left a very tiny ink blot, the only splash of color in the room. And for some reason that dot made me feel lighter than the eventual wire transfer. A document can redistribute money, but a single permanent blot tells the better story. Some stains never wash out. I didn't learn the baby's name until a cousin posted a blurry pic. Sophia Grace. Grace, of course. I zoomed in. Sophia's eyes squinted against flash she never asked for. Half pity, half relief. Kids inherit messes, not choices. Maybe one day she'll message me and I'll tell her about resilience and double exhale breathing. Until then, distance is the kinder gift. Leaving people who redefine love as silence is necessary triage. If a wound is contaminated, you don't stitch it. You clean it, pack it, let it heal by secondary intention. That takes longer, leaves a broader scar, but the tissue comes back stronger. I'm okay with scars. They're stories your skin refuses to forget. I wish the subreddit format allowed smell. I'd bottle the diesel pine detergent blend from this motel window so you know freedom isn't vanilla candles. If you're planning your own escape, remember, perfect timing is a myth. Pack the car anyway, fine-tune in the rear view. I kept one souvenir. The journal Mila and I bought at 9. I taped our old photos inside. I'll keep adding pages, documenting every state line I cross. One day that journal will weigh more than the betrayal, compound interest in miles. 2 weeks ago, Mila gave birth. A girl, 8 pounds, healthy. I found out from the hospital announcement page. They published the parents' names. Good for the baby, none of this is her fault. I sent a single gift, a plain white onesie that read consequences. No sender name, just the tracking barcode. Petty, sure, but satisfying. Which brings me to yesterday, the day I disappeared. The trust settlement finalized. I get my 25% outright plus damages, totaling $312,000 after fees. I wired half into a high-yield account under a new LLC. The other half bought me a used Airstream, a decent truck, and enough cash to roam. I left resignation paperwork for the hospital's HR with a month's PTO balance to cover notice. By the time they read it, I was already crossing state lines. I texted Mom a final time from a prepaid phone. I love the version of you I had before January 1st. Please take care of that version if she ever resurfaces. Delivered, no reply. I powered off and tossed the SIM into a rest stop trash can. People romanticize running away. Sunsets, playlists, the wind in your hair. The truth smells like stale coffee and anxiety sweat. But it also tastes like autonomy. Every mile I put between me and that pastel-painted nursery feels like adding back a rib they carved out of me while I slept. My revenge didn't involve balaclavas or sugar in gas tanks. It was spreadsheets, court filings, polite letters. I left them intact enough to rebuild, broken enough to remember who swung the hammer. Forgiveness is church language. I'm fluent in anatomy. Once tissue is necrotic, you excise it and cauterize. Family can be tissue. Best friends, boyfriends. You. Me if I'm not careful. Tomorrow I'll park the Airstream beside some lake and try to learn silence that doesn't hurt. I might foster rescue dogs, volunteer at free clinics, dye my hair a color no one in that town has seen. I might even write a book about surgical revenge. Working title, Incision Points. If the royalties are good, maybe I'll pay off Mila's medical bills anonymously, because spite and charity can coexist. But she will never know it's me, and I will never stand in that kitchen again and pretending cinnamon rolls mean unconditional love. If you're reading this and thinking about forgiving someone who lit your life on fire, remember gasoline doesn't evaporate just because they're sorry. Some bridges smell like smoke long before they burn. Trust your nose. Keep matches handy. Walk away first. I walked. I'm still walking. And for the first time since that sonogram bounced across my screen, the silence around me doesn't feel like betrayal. It feels like a blank page. Wish me luck.